Welcome to episode 5, my series on how to work on outlining the chord changes to jazz standards, something which is essential for fluency on the fretboard with arpeggios, but also for your ear training, and it's just a solid foundation for jazz improvisation. And working at this takes a lot of dedication, it takes a lot of hard work, often people are put off by that, but if you can't outline the basic arpeggios of the chords as they go by, then you're going to really struggle to improvise over the changes. Simple as that. Now in episode 4, which I'll link in the description, we looked at the key way to weave arpeggios together through the flat 7 to 3 resolution, whereby if we played the flat 7 on beat 4, just before the chord change, the third of the next chord will sit beneath it when chords move in fourths, like in the Autumn Leaves progression. If I just put that on the screen and recap what's going on there, you can see on A minor 7 beat 4, you got a G, the flat 7 going to the third of the D7. You got the flat 7 of the D7 going to the third of the G major 7. You've actually got the major 7th going to the third of the C major, and then in the last line you've got the flat 7 of the F sharp minor 7 flat 5 going down a semitone to the third of B7, and finally the flat 7 of B7 going down to the flat 3 of E minor 7. Now that was with a quarter note rhythm. Let's try it with eighth notes and see how that works. One of the troubles you'll encounter when practicing things like that, trying to play more notes of an arpeggio, is sometimes you will run out of road. And what do you do in that situation? Yes, you can go back and so forth, but one important skill to learn and way to get to grips with being more flexible with your arpeggios is what's called the pivot. This is where you change octave to complete the arpeggio. This is a fantastic way to freshen up your arpeggios because it will involve string skipping, which brings a different sound out. It makes the 1, 3, 5, 7 sound slightly fresher, to my ears anyway. The pivot isn't about getting a piece of furniture down a staircase. Although I like the staircase analogy for this. If you go up an A minor 7 arpeggio, 1, 3, 5, 7, A, C, E, G, it's going up, like that in order. It doesn't have to be like that. We could go down first. So instead of playing C on the G string, I'm dropping to the octave below for it and going A, C, E, G. So versus the pivot. Just sounds fresher, a bit more interesting. You get that string skipping, a different interval compared to here. This is a third. We've got the sixth here. If we did the same thing, but we played the root and third in the usual place, then I could drop for the fifth. So I'm going 1, 3, pivot, 5, 7. We could just pivot for the seventh. 1, 3, 5, 7. Sounds a bit like Purple Haze or something. So that's just the basics of its first. That's when you're ascending an arpeggio, you drop to complete the arpeggio in the octave below. We're still playing 1, 3, 5, 7, but it's very different to going up the arpeggio staircase, like. Compare that to the pivot, and I'm going to pivot after every root here, so. But when it comes to pivoting, you can do one or two things. If you're ascending an arpeggio, as I said, you can drop to the lower octave, the octave below, to complete the arpeggio. But if you were descending an arpeggio, so A minor 7 down, 7, 5, 3, 1, you could, if you wished, complete the arpeggio by going above. So you could go 7, 5, 3, 1, or 7, 5, 3, 1. Getting very pentatonic-y there. But just to show you can do it that way as well. Now you'd want to get used to doing this, just take an arpeggio, you got the root, but then instead of getting it predictably going up to the third, get it lower. And you need to obviously explore this on the fretboard for yourself first. Once you get to grips with it, we're going to want to reintroduce that close resolve, like that flat 7 to 3. So here's an outline with the pivot and close resolve. Let's follow that up with one of the most kind of typically used rhythms in jazz, eighth notes. So same thing, pivots with close resolves but with an eighth note rhythm. Personally, when I learnt about pivots, I found it really game-changing. It really freshened up my approach to arpeggios and my appreciation of the fretboard and how jazz musicians use and apply arpeggios over chord progressions. Now, I hope you found this lesson valuable. Pivots had a real impact on my understanding and the way I thought about arpeggios and applied them when playing over standards. So if you've got any questions or comments, please leave them below. And if you've got value from this video, definitely leave a comment because it really does help how these videos perform. As I said, there's a link to my Patreon page with the backing track in the description. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget jazz guitar lessons every Wednesday with myself, Andy. Until next time, you take care.